In level 4, you'll be graphing or writing linear inequalities in the coordinate plane rather than the number line. To do this, you're going to graph the inequality the same way you would graph a line. So we want the line to be in y equals mx plus b form. So just like we did in our last skill, we're going to solve for y. In this first inequality, I would subtract 2x from both sides. And we get negative 3y is greater than negative 2x plus 6. Next, to get y by itself, you would have to divide both sides by negative 3. So we divide by negative 3 everywhere. And just like with graphing an inequality on the number line, if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, you have to flip the sign. And we just divided by a negative, so we have to flip the sign. And we get y is less than negative 2 over negative 3 simplifies to positive 2/3 x. And then 6 divided by negative 3 would be minus 2. And this is the inequality that we're graphing. First we graph the line y equals 2/3 x minus 2. And so we do the y-intercept first, which is negative 2. And then the slope is 2/3, so I go up 2 and right 3, up 2, right 3, up 2, right 3. Or I could go down to left 3. And then when you're making your line, now that we're dealing with inequalities, we have a decision to make. If you have an inequality that is a greater than or less than, you use a dashed line. If you have a greater than or equal or a less than or equal, you're going to use a solid line. When you just have a greater than or a less than, the actual line is not included in the solution, which is why it's a dotted line, just like the open circle. So in this case, we're going to use a dotted line. So I do a dotted line. And then we're going to shade one section of the graph. If you have your inequality in y equals mx plus b form with y on the left side, you can just look at the inequality to determine which way to shade. If you have a less than or equal, you're always going to shade below. And if you have a greater than or equal, you're going to shade above. Now to use these rules, it has to be in y equals mx plus b form. So the y has to be on the left side, the rest of the equation on the right side. So in this case, we have a less than symbol. We're going to shade below the line. So the shaded region represents everything, all the solutions to this inequality. Sometimes you might be asked to test a point to determine if it's in the solution. So let's say, for example, we were testing the point negative 3, 5. And we want to know, is negative 3, 5 in the solution to this inequality? What you would do is plug those numbers into your inequality and see if it's true. So I'm going to take this inequality down here. I'm going to replace x with negative 3 and y with 5, and I see if this inequality is true. So I get 5 is less than 2/3 times negative 3 minus 2, and then I need to simplify this side. 2/3 times negative 3 is negative 2, so I get 5 is less than negative 2 minus 2, or 5 is less than negative 4. And then I ask myself, is that true? Is 5 less than negative 4? And no, it's not. This is false. So, in conclusion, negative 3, 5 is not in the solution. Okay, and if we look at negative 3, 5 on the graph, that point is right here. And we can see that it's not in the shaded part. That also tells us that we shaded the right way.